And we're live with old Swedish men playing Bach on a traditional instrument that most people have never heard of called the nickel harp. And why are we live with old Swedish men playing Bach on the nickel harp? Well, I will tell you. I love videos of old Swedish men playing the nickel harp because I love traditional instruments and I love Bach, and I think the old Swedish men who play the nickel harp are about the coolest goddamn thing in the world. And there are a bunch of Instagram accounts devoted to the nickel harp, which, for those of you who've never seen one before, is kind of like a violin, only it's got a little keyboard down at the bottom, and you don't play it up on your, you play it like a viola da gamba on your lap. It's kind of vaguely related to other instruments that are regional and are kind of hybrids of different traditional instruments, including the bandura, right, where you have like a guitar mates with a harp, and you get a bandura. But why do I bring the old Swedish men playing the nickel harp Bach to your attention this morning? And it is because of a long-standing beef that I have with the algorithm, which is I click like on those old Swedish men playing the not the bandura, the nickel harp over and over and over again. I can't tell you how many of those videos I have liked, and not once has the algorithm concluded that I want to buy an old Swedish man. Not once. But
Well,
you,
first of all, I have to say the one guy on the left didn't look that old. He
no,
looked
but he's kind of like, he's middle-aged, easily my age. I want to tell
he
you,
looks younger than you.
if he were a Ukrainian woman and I had clicked that I liked that video, I would be bombarded with "Buy a Ukrainian woman" ads, as I in fact am, some of which are so disgusting you would not believe it. And I want to say that uh, I get anxious if I'm inclined to click that I like some video of a uh, somebody playing the bandura and the person is A, female, and B, below a certain age, what ads I am going to get in response. And so my message to the algorithm is put up or shut up, start selling me old Swedish men, or stop selling me young Slavic women. You choose, but I want gender equality here. I want age equality. If by liking a musical performance or creating an instrument, you wouldn't believe the shit. I have all kinds of classical guitar videos that I like. And you like one classical guitar video by Ana Vitocic, who's a Croatian guitarist and young and reasonably attractive, and you will get bombarded with videos of women in bikinis playing electric guitars. Um, and
You
I
just
just want
broke
to,
your rule. You commented on a female's appearance.
you're right. I failed, and although
It's larger
it
point.
was contextually necessary, and I just want to say I don't like this. I think either you sell me the players of musical instruments, even when they're old Swedish men, or you don't do it, even when they're young Croatian guitarists. I'm just saying, don't, I want consistency here. It is.
It's gross.
Oh, the algorithm, if I make a point of, whenever the algorithm tries to sell me young women, of sending them to screenshots to Ev, because hacking the algorithm is one of Ev's big hobbies. And you would be shocked at the shit that I get. Based on a combination of interest in Ukrainian culture and a bunch of friendships with people like Nastya. Like there are
Marichka
like the Marichka.
and a
I mean,
bunch of
I look.
others.
I mean, although I do also have friendships with Ukrainian men that the algorithm just ignores because I don't apparently 55-year-old males don't buy Ukrainian men.
I'm, I'm
But
sure.
I'm sure some of them do. It is really disgusting. It is also June 4th. It is 8:06 a.m. I have spent already 6 minutes ranting about the algorithm, the traditional Swedish nickel harp, Bach, and the sale online of Ukrainian and other Slavic women. It is. Uh, oh, look, the sun is shining. The birds are chirping and woke me up this morning. It's going to be a great fucking day. Uh, and Cactus, what do we have to say about it?
Oh,
You're watching Dog Shirt TV, an effing revolution in morning television.
oh, I think he's
Whoa,
out of
the
battery.
cactus is out of batteries, and I have a story about the cactus.
That is, I don't know if that's emblematic of
Well, it
the
may
break.
be an omen of a not so great day.
Yeah.
It is, you are watching Dog Shirt TV. It is a fucking revolution in morning television. And one of the revolutionary features is that sometimes, as you will recall, we have a cactus off in which the cactuses fight and the audience votes on who is the winner. And you will recall that I brought a plush cactus back from Arizona, and we had a cactus off, and the cactus totally defeated the little squishy cactus from Arizona. Um, and there is a coda to this story, which is the other day while we were doing the show, Cleo the puppy found the defeated cactus and shredded it into pieces like the size of my thumbnail.
Ooh.
And when we were done with the show, I came out to find the defeated cactus like strewn around the both floors of the house. Pieces of it are, and so I just want to say, when Holly tells you not to mess with the cactus, I mean, like she is not kidding because the
You'll
cactus,
be dismembered.
you will be dismembered, and it may not happen today and it may not happen tomorrow, but it will happen soon, and you will be like, a Russian airplane confronting a Ukrainian drone in Siberia, all of which is a 9-minute long-winded way of saying that we are not allowed to have fun anymore. But we are allowed to have, in the spirit of old Swedish men playing nickel harps, a veritable smorgasbord of subjects today, because Holly and I were going to talk about events in Sudan. But then Holly sent me two texts, one of which was that the news hook for this turns out to be disinformation. And the second of which is that she can only be on for a little bit today. And so I sent a note to Nastya that said Nastya's feeling a little down for reasons that we're not going to go into. I said, come on the show, I'll cheer you up. And she said, okay. And I also sent a note to the estimable Katsiaryna Shmatsina, who is one of my very favorite people, and certainly my absolute favorite Belarusian insurrectionist, convicted felon, sentenced to 10 years in prison and hanging out in Washington. And I said, come on the show in 13 minutes at a very unladylike hour. And she responded something like, okay, or well, fine. And so here we all are. We're going to talk a little bit about Sudan. We're going to, and things that maybe didn't happen there. We're going to cheer Nastia up. It's already happening. Look, she's smiling and kind of laughing. And we're going to check in on the revolution in Belarus. How's it going? Um, and how Katie is enjoying serving her sentence in exile in Washington. Uh, we're not allowed to have fun anymore, but we are allowed to have
Doing
the
good. I'm enjoying my
smorgasbord.
morning coffee, and again, like
Hey, Katie, how
hopping
are you?
on this call for like on a 10-minute notice was interesting.
Yeah. Well, you all had 10-minute notice except Holly, who thought we were going to do a whole show today and then we're not. We're going to do we're going to do this in order. So Nastia, since you're here to be cheered up, your instructions are pipe in anytime and give a thumbs up or a thumbs down if we're cheering you up or if we're being annoying or if we're just exacerbating things by talking about one of the few places in the world where shit is not just worse than in Ukraine, but like way worse,
Epically.
epically worse. Katie, we're going to talk about Sudan. If you have thoughts about Sudan, chime in at any time, and then we're gonna check in on the life of. We got to give you a good nickname, like a revolutionary nickname, like Bakunin or something. We're gonna check in on the life of the insurrectionist in exile. So, Holly, what's going on in Sudan that didn't
Well,
happen that we need to talk about?
Well, I don't know. So I this is my husband's fault, just to put it out there, because he sent me this article. I don't honestly, he's not trolling Sudan news just on the regular, so I'm not even sure how he came across it from a source I didn't recognize. But again, I figured if he had come across it, it was like kind of big. It would have to be big news for him to actually see it. So I didn't interrogate it terribly well. But it said that Hemeti, the paramilitary leader who controls Darfur in Sudan.
And when Holly says controls Darfur, uh, what that means is controls and commits genocidal activity in.
Yeah, well, that's how you do control, like that's genociding is a very good way to control a population. Anyway, dictatoring 101. Um, so anyway, and it said that Hemeti was offering to take in Gazans to Sudan. Now, uh, this
It's
as
kind of
far
the
as
kind of thing Hameti would do,
yeah,
right?
that's why I believed it too, because this would be a brilliant masterstroke on his part, and again, just the kind of thing that he would do. Um, because he's very PR savvy. Even as he genocides, he's out on the PR beat, spinning things. He's a very good spin master. And honestly, I mean, is there any if you're like looking to influence the US government, I mean, it's so easy to do right now. He even has gold. I'm just waiting for him to like offer Trump a gold mine, like in exchange to recognize because he's kind of
But but it's not just Trump that it potentially appeals to. It's
oh no,
Netanyahu as well, right? And
right,
so
no, no,
you
no, no.
so you get the sort of regional power and the big power. I mean, it would be a smart move.
It would be a smart move, except that I don't know. They're already having trouble like feeding people there. So I'm not sure where he would put these people or like what. I'm not really clear on the logistics, but again, he'll worry about that later, I guess. Of how what he would do with the Gazans,
But anyway, it turns out we don't want to dwell on it because it turns out not to be true. Who is
Yeah,
making this shit up?
Well, I don't know. I mean, as of now, I don't think it's true. I mean, he could still do it, which again, I'm not sure it would be a. I think it would not be a. It would be a pretty smart move on his part, PR wise. Um, but as far as I can tell, it looks to be disinformation that maybe UAE might have planted to sort of curry favor for themselves and to piss Egypt off. And there's all kinds of regional dynamics in the Middle East. Um, so I don't know.
Interesting.
Yeah, it is interesting.
So, Nastya, does anybody in Kiev follow developments in like with a kind of morbid, at least it's not like
There were
Sudan?
Ukrainians in Sudan.
Apparently, there are Ukrainians everywhere. When I remember, I was reading stories about Ukrainians in Gaza, and there was like nearly 1,000 of them. I was shocked. There's like a whole community and like a representative and an office, what used to be, you know. So I'm sure there
There
are a
were
bunch of them in Sudan as
Christian
well.
military advisors in Sudan. And even if there were like
Oh
some
yeah,
military.
and like good guys, yeah, for sure. Yeah, we're popping up all around the map,
Yeah.
being busy. But no, I don't think anyone here really follows anything there at all. I don't see it in the media ever. Like our media is very bad with like reporting on international news and international conflicts. We had this conversation like when the war in Gaza started, there was reporting, but it was completely one-sided, like completely pro-Israeli. And yeah, so and now no one really talks about anything at all. So
I mean,
it's
Ukrainians
unfortunate.
should focus on the war in Ukraine.
What about uh
So
what about in Belarus? Does Belarusian media pay any attention to, I mean, and this is highly state controlled, to
yeah,
stuff like, um, uh, uh, you know, what's going on in other parts of the world, or is it intentionally focused on, uh,
how great Lukashenko is.
yeah, on sort
I
of
would say there is
how
coverage as
exciting
Belarusian regime is
Lukashenko's
trying to
latest
avoid
corrupt deal
sanctions.
is?
They try to establish contacts with unlikely allies and friends across the world, like including some places in Africa where we had no interest dealing with previously. But yeah, of course, like it would not be an objective media coverage. Um,
And who's the in the Belarusian uh,
hmm.
government worldview, who
Yeah,
is the
yeah,
good
like
guy
I was like
in
there
these
was an
conflicts? It's
interesting
whoever will do business with
coverage
them.
of dealing with North Korea, for example, like and selling cosmetic products to North Korea. While also it looked like yeah, but also they were traveling. It looks like they were traveling because Putin told them so.
What?
Like and maybe dealing with something more serious, but on the facade they were talking about shipping makeup products back and forth.
Maybe you should
Excellent.
get some
Yeah.
Belarusian makeup products, Ben.
I do a Belarusian
Yeah,
get ready with me. Yeah,
that would not fool the algorithm at all. I'm sure that actually it might.
you
You might
know,
start getting men.
my get ready with me videos don't fool the algorithm at all because they're so outlandishly unrelated to anything that it's not like the algorithm can say, other men who make get ready with me videos are really into this product, right? There is like a sort of gay get ready with me male culture,
Yeah.
but I don't check any of the other boxes for that, so I don't start getting fed. I like people send me these. There's this one guy who did a set of videos about how to make himself up as a Republican woman, or a Mar-a-Lago woman,
Oh, I think I saw
a
that.
MAGA woman. I think I sent it to you. And it's hilarious. Like he does his makeup very carefully in a fashion that you know he could show up at Mar-a-Lago. But like the algorithm is sophisticated enough that it knows that like I don't have any of the other likes, that it should start feeding me the gay men get ready with me video, which is actually tragic because I
It's
think I
tragic.
would love them.
I know.
Um, so
I just
yeah,
imagine they come though with links to then buy Slavic men.
I don't think so.
Really?
No, I
That's
don't
not
think.
a thing, let me tell you.
Yeah, it's really
There is
Slavic
a
women.
stereotype about Slavic women. There is no stereotypes about
Okay,
Slavic
what's some
men.
other nationality of men? Where
Like,
do
it's just
men
not a
have
type of man you
Thailand,
want to buy. Let me tell you that.
Thai men? I don't know.
I was
Yeah,
just in Norway. I think everyone should buy Norwegians. Like, I don't even know where the Slavic women stereotype came from because I saw like Norwegian girls and I was like mind blown. Like,
And
they're all
actually,
well,
so
men as
beautiful.
well. They're
And the
it's
men, and
crazy.
the men.
Everyone in
Everyone
Norway
is stunning.
is like so beautiful. I went to school with some Norwegians
I,
in Kenya, and all of them were just like stunning. I had a huge crush on one of the guys
I just want to point out that that
who's now lives
Slavs
on this.
are in fact Norwegians.
I was just gonna
You're
say, and
just
yes,
descendants
yeah,
of
Vikings.
Vikings.
Yes,
And this is when you go to Norway, this is like homecoming. It's before the Kievan Rus. You were Norwegians.
basically. Yeah, that's why
Yeah.
I like Norway so much, because I feel like we're
It's the homeland.
brotherly nations. The true brotherly nations out there is Ukraine and Norway.
So, Katya, what have you been up to the
Well,
last few
plotting,
weeks?
of
What are
course.
you thinking about?
Like
What
the
are
other
you working
day, I was at the
on? What's
Museum of
the
Victims
latest
of
revolution?
Communism, and we're discussing what we can do together. Like beyond maybe just like writing op-eds, but like doing something more meaningful. I write stuff, most recently for some German magazine on in a very polite way. I was trying to I was asked to describe what is the new U.S. Approach to the foreign policy means for Belarus and Eastern Europe, and I was trying to come up with very nice nice words how to put it, like to be accurate but very self in a self-censorship type of way. So that's because the when you see the people who
And
are
why are you trying
detained
to
at little to no
self-censor here?
reason here in the U.S., it starts make you worry, including scholars.
And let's be fully informative about this. Katya has a pending asylum application, and she is the exact prototype of the person who, except that you don't write about the Middle East, who has others
Well, I would
like
say
her
like
have
not
run
yet.
into
We haven't
trouble.
seen
Is that
many Russian, let's say,
fair?
like we've only seen one case of this Russian scholar from Harvard detained. Yeah, yeah, yeah. That.
Yeah, and she was
The one
she
with
was
frogs?
she was carrying frog embryos. And
What
so
the?
Katya, don't go
Yeah.
through customs with frog embryos. I'm just telling you, just don't do it. Um yeah, so I just want to flag this point for people, um there are a lot of people in this country who are self-censoring as a result of the climate. And, you know, that's a major First Amendment injury, um, to the culture, to the individuals, and it sucks. So what are you
Well, saying
politely
something like the peace through
trying to
strength
communicate?
agenda, like we could see the signs of it, let's say, when we like there's some back channel communication between US administration and Belarusian regime when they try to like US State Department officials try to free political prisoners, even if it means that potentially there could be some sanctions lifted. Uh, Oh, yeah. So human
Do you
rights
count as a
groups
political
do,
prisoner? I
like
mean, you're
they
here and you're not
marked
locked
me
up, but
like
you are
in
formally
their
locked up.
database as a political prisoner, like in exile. But yeah, like I'm in a much better position than many other people. Yeah.
That's cool status. Yeah, it's the coolest status.
Yeah.
You get all the political prisoner cred without any of
Yeah.
the jail time.
This
And
is
you
so
get
funny
told you I'd
and
cheer
also
you up.
tragic.
So, uh yeah, so my impression is that Lukashenko these days is trying to kind of keep his head down and do what Putin wants without doing more than Putin wants. He's sort of, I don't know, in for a dime or a quarter, but not necessarily in for a dollar. Is that right? I mean, is he trying to
Yeah,
play
like this
both sides
conversation
at
about
this
him
point,
playing both sides, like it's so old because
um,
like the guy has been in
or
power
is
for
he
30
all
years
in?
and like like at times of course he would try to I don't think he has like sometimes he would try to play both sides and he sort of succeeded after Crimea annexation when he succeeded selling himself to the West as not the worst guy in the room and it worked for a while. Um, but now I don't think he has much autonomy in his decision making, really. Because like he's yeah. No, I'm saying like now, yeah, yeah.
So then why didn't
So
Belarus
like you mean
join
the
the
full
war?
scale? Like why didn't
I was
they send
actually
the
asked that
troops?
and I had no
Mm-hmm.
answer. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
yeah, like do we
Yeah.
know if
Right.
Putin has like asked for
Well, first,
that?
yeah, like
I
there
mean,
was
I'm
a lot
sure
of
if
talks
Putin
about that.
like the Belarusian army to
So like
start like fighting
like
together.
first thing we know is that the Belarusian army, when this happened, like pretty high level like generals were very much opposing this. Not that they would be able to say no if Lukashenko told them so. Like from the strategic point, Belarusian army is useless, like literally, like in the sense that like they're not prepared for anything offensive. And in terms of defense, I don't even know how much they would survive. I mean, like, yeah, so they're sort of useless except for cannon meat. And like also the public opinion is that like people oppose like very much, like they worry very much about their like sons, husbands being sent conscripted and I think that for Putin, the idea that if you create like a turmoil or this like instability in Belarus, like this is just not like participate like sending Belarusian army is like outweighs the costs. Like you would have huge human losses, and then yeah, yeah. But I was gonna say that
The
like
risks outweigh the yeah.
Yeah, I
Interesting.
mean, the Ukrainian army is battle tested, well resourced, and
Hmm, we can debate that.
well, not as well resourced as it wants to be, but it has weapons. Um,
Sure.
I mean, if Belarus were to open a northern front against Ukraine, I don't know that I would say Minsk would be Minsk meat in 3 days, but it would not like that would end really badly. The Russians are barely able to control and prevent erosion on their own front. Um, and you put an army that's not very capable against the Ukrainians
yeah.
on the north, and all of a sudden you have to defend Belarus.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm a bit more pessimistic about that, but that's
It's
okay.
just because you're in a bad mood.
No, I just, what's the word I'm looking for? I've grown a bit cynical about everything war related, this. Um, but yeah, I was asked at a panel when we did that last podcast event, once somebody asked, why do you think like the Belarusian army hasn't joined the fight yet? And like none of us knew, and it was like me and a bunch of former American officials, or like, I don't know. Oh, and then this fantastic general kept calling Belarus Belarusia for like 5 minutes, and I had a tick in my eye the entire time. But
Okay, so let's talk about that because there
he also
are
said Iran, and it was a
yeah, but
beautiful time.
oh please. Iran is just a highly anglicized. Look, you know, until very recently in the UK, Argentina was called the Argentine. Um and um you know,
So we were called the Ukraine
oh yeah, well that's
and
and
Kiev
you can
and all of the
still
other
you can still
things.
get Ukrainians very mad by putting a the in front of, which is funny because the word the doesn't exist in either Ukrainian or Russian. And so whether there's a definite article or not is almost like a spiritual question in all Slavic languages, you know, because they don't really do definite articles. And so, you know, whether your name is Nastia or the Nastia is really just a matter of interpretive choice in
But it's different with the Ukraine. I mean, the people get mad because it the sort of the implicit meaning is that it's like a territory of something else.
yeah, like the United States or you
I
know
don't know. I'm not ready for this conversation. I have zero juices to talk about Ukraine and Russia. I actually wanted to talk about
but wait,
uh
we got to ask about
yeah, Belarusia. Yeah, that
Belarusia.
that is
So
beyond me. Yeah.
so Katya, why does this phrase
Yeah.
bother people, the
Including
Belarusia,
Ukrainians.
including Ukrainians? What's the subtle um, difference between Belarusia, which is how we all grew up referring to it to the extent that we had heard of it at all? And sometimes people would refer to it in English as White Russia, which was is a false translation of Bela,
Oh
but
no.
and was I think
Uh-huh.
inflected by the whites versus the reds
Yeah.
in the revolution period. So what is the actual meaning of
Yeah.
why
So,
does the
like,
way
essentially, if you say
we
Belarusia, you pretty
pronounce it
much refer to the
matter, and or does it
Soviet
to
slash
anybody but
imperial like
Nastya?
legacy, or like the time when we were under pretty much like Russian rule, part of the Russian Empire, and then Soviets. But then you're not wrong when you say like it's like white Rus rather. So like like if you go back in history, Russians stole the name Rus, and they claim that this is their own legacy, and everyone else was non-existent little petty brothers, while they were the great Muscovites and whatnot with Ivan the Terrible. Yeah, which is the opposite. But I was gonna say I was literally very recently
Which
looking
is the
into
opposite actually.
some history. You were asking me, Ben, what I was up to. I was listening to a lot of like lectures on Belarusian history and also like Russian Empire, which helps to understand the context. Um, and so, if you look back even at the European maps of medieval times, there is this definition like Rus Alba by Western historians. Oh, like not historians, like Western, I don't know, like geographers or whatnot. They were marking this like part of like what you would say like Belarus today as something like Rus, but also something distant and maybe unknown because it was sort of on the outskirts of Europe at the time. Um, and if you say like white Rus, this was also like used back in the day to mark. There are like different versions. There's not one version white was used, but part of it maybe because the ordinary people on our lands were wearing like white clothes, or because they were never under Tatar yoke. There were like they were fights and they were robbed by Tatars every once in a while, but they never were paying the yoke, unlike Muscovites. Yay!
Yeah, and like I just want to say again, this is all I have the juices for to say that at the time that Kievan Rus was flourishing and had all sorts of connections with Europe and libraries and academies and art and whatever, there was nothing in Moscow at all, completely nothing. So just putting it out there.
Yeah, it's a
So
dangerous
they
argument. It's a dangerous
but I
argument,
mean, it's
Nastya.
true though.
Be,
I've said through history classes when this was explained to me. I didn't make it up from
yeah,
Twitter.
but
Like it's true.
no, I know you didn't. I know you didn't make it up. I know Kiev is older than Moscow. But
I
the
don't
thing
think it
is,
should matter in international law
that's
if
the
that's what you're.
point.
I don't
That's
think
the
it should
point.
matter. No,
The
this is
the
just to piss
rel
off the Russians.
the relevant point is that Ukrainians don't want to be ruled by Moscow and don't consider themselves Russian. That's the relevant point. And the same is true of Belarusians. Um, and if that developed within the last century, as is, for example, the case with Palestinians, the identification, the national identification grew up very recently, that's fine. And if it's old, that's fine. And the idea that we look to some ancient history, some of which is mythical and some of which is documentable, and by the way, which Swedish who married a Slavic princess, and in which
There were
place
a lot of them marrying our
should
princesses.
yeah, should determine anything about modern borders is a ridiculous notion. Um, and and so I always say when Putin cites the Kievan Rus as a source of his, the fact that there are
No, you
brotherly
know what?
nations, and
I don't think
that's
that's
bullshit.
like
But
the
you
way
guys
I
shouldn't
heard
play
what
in the same
Nasta
bullshit.
was saying. For me, it was like counter bullshit to what Kremlin says, because like yeah, yeah. Yeah. I'm sorry. Yeah, like that's what I
I
meant. I'm
mean, but
sorry.
it's also not
Like
bullshit.
this,
It's like
and
just
like yeah,
correcting the bullshit
I
with
didn't mean
facts.
that. So like that was like counter argument to this BS. Like history. You know why? Because like Kremlin.
No, I
Yeah.
That was aimed at Ben,
Yeah.
not at you, Katya. Don't worry.
I
I know you
I
know what I
look.
mean.
I accept. I look. Take this from a Jew who, we have like better historical arguments than anybody because
Fair.
we're super fucking old. Um, and I I have this joke with friends that Israeli archaeology boils down to, uh, but this oil lamp, it's very old, and it shows that all of the land is ours. And I I don't like it. I think like the reason Israel should exist is that a whole bunch of Jews moved there and created a state. And the reason, like, it doesn't actually live in history. It lives in contemporary reality. The reason Ukraine should exist in its modern borders is that very large numbers of Ukrainians feel a national consciousness that is not just different from Russian national consciousness, but genocidally enforced in opposition to Russian identification, and the international community recognized its borders, including Russia. And that's the answer to the question. It it doesn't need to live in some argument
Yeah.
over what happened in the 10th century. I don't know. Ditto Kosovopolia and the Serbs and the, like, I don't give a shit what you know Vlad the Impaler did in Serbia in the Middle Ages. I don't know. I'm I'm
No, you're right.
I'm
I mean, we do
very
this just
modern realist about this.
everyone understands this. We do this just because it pisses us off because the Russians do it and they do it all the time. I mean, like the head of their delegation at peace talks is a guy who's a propagandist who writes quasi history books. Like that's the head of their delegation. Like they use
Can,
history every single day. They spew this shit out. So
can I
we can't
just
just
say
not
though,
respond.
we need to spend a bit of time on what the head of their delegation said about the Ukrainian children in Istanbul the other day, because um, you know, so for
Let me
those
find the
who,
receipts.
yeah, find the receipts. Katya, did you follow this? The he pulled a JD Vance and said that the we shouldn't be Ukrainians shouldn't be appealing to uh, middle-aged childless ladies in Europe about the missing kids. I forget the exact words. Nazia will pull it up, but it's the Ukrainians presented a demand for the return of 20,000 stolen children, and
We asked for like 300, by the way. The list
yeah,
is
which is
339.
okay. And what did the guy say?
He said, don't put on a show for bleeding heart European old ladies with no children of their own.
It's like a JD Vance moment, the childless
Ex-
cat ladies thing.
Except J.D. Vance got it from them, right? I mean, this shit originates in Russia, I think, and then the far right in the US picks it up, and it becomes this evil times X10, times 10. It's really sad.
All right, so folks, we've got a lot on the table here. If you want to cheer up Nastia,
I also
jump.
have gossip to discuss
Oh, you
anyway.
have gossip to discuss. Go
I
for
mean,
it.
it's not actually, I mean, I don't know. I every now and then I would have these like thoughts about various famous people in America, and then I remember that you may actually like know them, or they may be watching this show, or they may be your friends, and I don't know how to
Go
talk
for it.
about
We'll
it anymore.
we'll see. I'll
It
I'll tell you if you've stepped in a pile of shit.
it's about the journalist I asked you about like yesterday or whenever when I was like, what do you think about this person?
Oh, go for it. Go
Yeah,
for
okay.
it.
Right. So every now and then it's like 11 p.m. and I need to go down some rabbit hole and I'm tired of reading papers or writing and I just need to do something like kind of stimulating but not too much. And so the other day I wound up watching a bunch of interviews by Ronan Farrow, and then like reading his book, which seems great. I mean, I only read like first 10 pages, but it's really good. It's
Mhm.
very well written. So then I went down the rabbit hole of their family, which Jesus fuck, like excuse me for putting that in one sentence for religious folks out there, but like that's one hell of a family. And then I also ended up going down the rabbit hole of like his interviews about spying because that's like his recent thing. Like using some media tool because he's doing this reporting about companies that spy on you and how Trump could spy on you and the privacy issues. Anyway, and so I wanted to ask you because I was watching his interview and he was talking and the interviewer and him were talking about how like our generation, the youngest generation, just couldn't give less, fucks about privacy. Like we like kids just don't care and it's sort of a big problem, but then also I guess not really because I was thinking about my and then I got thinking to myself of like how much do I care about it, and I only care about my like digital privacy only to the extent of like possible danger from the Russians because of my job or because of my husband who was in the military before. But if it was like if I wasn't Ukrainian and if Russians didn't exist, I wouldn't give a crap about what government is doing in my phone. So I welcome all
All right.
thoughts about how
Well, so
that's a
I
stupid
I
opinion.
want to I want to start this conversation because we have somebody here in Katya who's had genuine privacy issues
Of course. Yes.
with her phone. And and so let's talk about um, Katya when you were still in Belarus, um, and even after you left, you had some genuine security issues that involved the use of electronic devices. What was when you read about, privacy issues in
Yeah,
regard
I
to
mean,
one's
I would think I have the
phone,
same thing as
what does
Anastasia.
that
Like, I'm
mean for
thinking like
you?
about my own government or the Russians. I care I care a little less about other risks. I would say, but like when I
Same.
had to flee Belarus, I left my phone behind. I like wipe out my other electronic devices. Um, and like at the times, let's say like when I lived in Europe and was working with one of the think tanks that was investigating Russian money laundering schemes in Europe, I was followed, and that also brought me to to raise concerns like, oh, like what's the security settings for the Google Calendar and other stuff. So anyways, like whenever I talk to IT
That's
specialists who will go through
terrifying.
my stuff, I get increasingly paranoid. But then over time, it's like, yeah, I don't know. Like there's so many other things going on in life.
So, all right. So let's talk brass tacks. Do you care? You have an active Instagram presence. It's presumably tracking you in order
Who are you
to.
asking, Katya?
I was asking Katya, but you as well. It's presumably tracking you, and in every way that it can legally do so, in order to sell you things. Presumably not young Slavic women, but other things. Um, does that, on a scale of 1 to 10, if the Belarusian KGB is a 10 in concern,
Interestingly, I
what
haven't seen
is
much like something like
Instagram
super
targeted
relevant to
advertising?
me and the like Instagram ads. Maybe other than some makeup stuff, literally. So I think like I don't yeah. Yeah,
Really?
I mean but makeup like what?
But yeah, I get pretty cool ads.
I get
I like it.
unbelievably targeted. Like some of it is like the thing knows me really well. Like if there's a new laser product that can write on the wall of some, it will be like it's
But that's kind
released
of
on.
useful, right?
Oh yeah.
Okay, so we can
If there's,
agree. Okay.
I get ads, literally. I get ads for
How did he
cameras,
disappear?
camera equipment that can capture lightning strikes. Um, which apparently is a hobby, photographing lightning. I don't care about photograph, but the difference between photographing lightning and photographing lasers is like this, right? Like it knows me really well in some ways. And in some ways, it's like it really thinks I'm a creepy guy who, just wants young Slavic women. And it's like selling me, like the stuff that it sends me is super, super creepy. Um, all right, sorry, but so the targeted advertising doesn't bother either of you at all? All right, what about um stuff that this one's particularly for Katya, that when you read stories about how the Trump administration is maybe thinking about contracting with Palantir to find uh, undocumented migrants, although you are in fact not an undocumented migrant, you are fully
That does. I have
documented.
not heard this news about
Does that
Palantir, you know.
give
That
you
raises
privacy
yeah, I know, like
anxiety?
that raises my level of anxiety instantly.
Yeah, Palantir.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you're having a good day, that
Yeah.
ends right now.
Uh-huh.
Ben has
Yeah.
ruined it for you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
so
why I
Google
self-censor,
Palantir
That's why
immigration
I
and
think twice, but it
your heart
doesn't.
rate will go
But
up.
I don't self-censor to the point
What
that I
about
don't say what I want to say, because that would be a
yeah,
bummer if I still get in trouble and self-censor. That would be like the biggest bummer, At least now I get to say what I think, but in a nice words.
yeah, that would be a bummer. All right, so what about uh um uh the um companies, this one should hit, I think, really close to home for you. Um uh the Some of them are Israeli, some of them are ex-NSA people who are contracting with, it seems like a lot of it is the United Arab Emirates to do anti-dissident hacking. I'm thinking of the NSO group, and um, I don't know that Belarus, frankly, could afford to retain them, but I mean, they're super expensive. But the UAE has really gone after people using these, bespoke hacking groups that are, quite effective and are attacking people's phones.
Like
How
first,
does that, how does
sort
that
of. Like first, I
scare
don't
you?
feel like scared in a
Do you
sense that
follow the
like
NSO
at
group
some point,
stuff?
like when you deal with like ups and downs and you flee and you become dissident and whatnot, like you're not scared. Like things do not, like, you do not get easily. Yeah, you get used to it, and then you think like, yeah, I mean, there's like I don't want to like
You
run
get used
or
to it.
let people like or all these possibilities and risk like intimidate me. But also, Ben, when you say like Belarusian government cannot afford it, Belarusian Russian intelligence and like security services work very closely. So I would say like Belarusians can afford it, and also like Russians are very interested in Belarusian dissidents, or like so that in that sense, I'm on a wanted list in Russia. But in
Yeah,
general, like
you're
Russians are very
indicted in
interested
Russia
in
too, right?
suppressing dissent in Belarus. They want to clean up the space, for them, for their like brainwashing and like their presence, like imperial presence. So Russians can easily, target us, people like us.
Yeah. All right. So, Nastya, what about you? Which of those
Yeah.
things does and doesn't scare you?
I mean, I I'm not I don't think I'm doing anything to piss off like the SBU, this the Ukraine's security service. Which, by the way, it's so funny to me. Like anytime the Ukrainian government does something well, or like Zelensky makes a good speech, or the SBU does Operation Spiderweb, everyone is back on this vibe of Ukraine, the heroic nation ruled by Churchill himself. And Ukrainians are like, yeah, the SBU can be effective when they're not spying on Ukrainian journalists. So like they
Well,
have a mixed rep, just like
but
any
I
intelligence service
but
anywhere.
hang on a second. That's totally appropriate, right? Like you
They
guys,
they no,
you
they've
got
done they've
no,
done
no, no,
bad
no, no. I
stuff.
don't mean their conduct with respect to journalists is totally
Oh, you
appropriate.
mean Ukrainians'
I mean
reaction?
Ukraine. Like it is perfectly reasonable for outsiders to be impressed by an operation and say, that's freaking awesome and badass. And also targeted at a completely legitimate set of targets and done in a very elegant and effective way without any civilian casualties. And for Ukrainians to remember their domestic politics and remember that, the Kiev Independent had some issues with the SBU, within the
Every
last
other media,
6 months, right? And
had
so,
issues.
like, I don't think that's an unreasonable dichotomy and reaction on the part of either side.
I mean, I'm most like the time that I was most freaked out about this in my life was when I was in Kirkenes. Like literally, like when I was in Arctic Norway and right on the border with Russia, that has this, wrapped in all of these myths and real stories about Russian espionage and all of those things. Like I've never been more like aware of that in my life, right? Like I genuinely avoided walking around the Russian consulate there until you, Ben, told me go up and showed me what it looks like. And I was like, maybe not. Like, I just don't even wanna. So
Well,
I was like, every time I like opened my door into my hotel room, I was like aware of if someone is in there. I would check if I locked it. Like, I was very aware. So that was pretty creepy.
so it sounds like the two of you have virtually no fear of private actors in this space and high fear of government actors and fear of things like the NSO group only insofar as there are state actors behind them. Is
Yeah,
that a reasonable summary?
I think so. Yeah. But I'm not doing any investigative reporting about like any, yeah, like the only bad actor that I'm like revealing or talking bad stuff about is Russia and everything Russia does. So that's the only sort of actor who can get mad at me.
And Katya, why are you, when you say you have no fear of Instagram or Facebook or whatever, why are you not concerned about the Russian intelligence
Oh,
scooping
I'm
up
sure
all
they
that
already
data
did.
and
And
using
like
it to
whenever,
create
and
a
when I say
very
like no fear,
detailed
it's just like it's more like
profile of
less
you?
paranoia, more of like rational thinking that you cannot regulate or you cannot tackle all the risks. But I'm aware, and I would assume that everything I post, like I'm pretty sure they have like a profile. Yeah, so and I would also assume like among my friends, or let me put it that way. So over the course of my work, I know that even people I know and sort of trusted, even some of the I trusted, they were recruited by Belarusian KGB and forced to leak information on other people. So I don't like. I would assume automatically, even if I post, I don't know, like a selfie when I go to a museum or to like a
It's terrible.
cocktail party, I would assume like I don't really know like who's behind like someone I know from Belarus who lives in Warsaw. I don't know. Maybe they're not so much like of a friend. Like maybe they're also like they're the ones putting together these profiles of me and other dissidents. Yeah, sure.
Okay, I have a question about Belarusian media space. I know we're running out of time, but I don't know any Belarusians to ask this. What's the view of
Ah,
this guy
Protasevich,
whose
you
name is now
mean? Oh, like the
escaping me,
guy,
the
like
guy
where
who
they
was
landed the
an important
plane? Yeah,
journalist,
they
editor, and
landed
then
through
got
an
arrested and
airplane.
completely turned? Yeah. What's
Yeah,
Pratasevich?
yeah.
Yes, yes. That was
Ah,
so fucking sad. I'm sorry I'm
so
swearing a lot today, but it's a tragic story.
yeah,
What's
sure.
the
So in
view of like the
2021, the
Belarusian
guy,
community?
like he escaped. He was
And
running one
also, do
of
you
the
want to explain what
major
happened for people who have
news,
no
like a
idea?
startup news, I think, platforms against Lukashenko's like yeah, like they were had like millions of they were like widely popular,
Like
and
pretty
then the
oppositional.
Belarusian government, in cooperation with Russians, of course, they had like this special operation. So the guy lived in European Union, and he was having a vacation in Greece, Athens, and he was based in Vilnius, Lithuania, and he was on the Ryanair plane from Athens to Vilnius. But for a short period of time, the plane was on the in the Belarusian airspace, and that's when they forced the Belarusian government, like the authorities, they forced the landing of this plane, and then they arrested the guy and his girlfriend. At the time, no, she was not like random. She was
Who seems completely
volunteering for
random, by the
one
way.
of
Like she wasn't
the
involved in
she was like
any,
doing
right? Was she
maybe like she
involved?
didn't have like access to decision making, but she was
Okay.
working for some of the projects like anti like some opposition projects. And so I would say like it's a very successful operation of Belarusian special services in a sense that they managed to completely destroy the image and reputation of this guy. We don't know what happened to him, and I don't know what would happen to honestly any of us if captured, tortured, and whatnot. Honestly, so like the guy started talking about like he would um sort of talk or disclose some information of the opposition forces, like how he doesn't agree with them. And there were several like forced interrogation or like interviews on major propaganda TV channels. Also, like, and it turned like the opposition groups and like Belarusians in exile, they kind of started hated him, saying like, "Oh, he's a traitor. He's so weak." Honestly, in the first, this like interview on TV, there was like traces of like tortures, like he was, you know, beaten like with bruises, you know, like literally. I don't know who of us like would be as much of a hero for a long time, and he was
Yeah.
too much of, yeah.
So basically, like from the outsider's perspective, like they arrested this guy,
Mm,
threw him into jail. No one heard from him in like, I don't remember how much time, but like for a period of time,
yeah,
nothing
yeah,
happened. And then he shows up
yeah, yeah,
and starts completely following Lukashenko's line. And so everyone is like, what the hell? Right. So then I guess people split
yeah.
up into these camps
Him,
of like,
yeah,
obviously they just like threatened his
and his
parents
girlfriend.
or his family or him, like whatever, like yeah, or him. And then so this, and that's why he's doing it. And then there are others,
Yeah,
and he would say like he would like walk
yeah,
back stuff he's done. He would say that he was wrong, like it looked
yeah,
so bad. And
yeah.
then there are also people
Never,
who are
Right.
like,
yeah,
go
never
ahead.
judge somebody when they have a gun to their family's head. That's my, it's, you know, the power that these people can exert over you is exquisite, um, and uh, I mean, I do think what people did when they were not in custody is a much better indicator of who they are than what they do when the full force of a totalitarian government can be exerted against you. We've got to wrap, but you can follow Katya and Darth Putin's own podcast on the YouTube page, In the Bunker with Darth Putin KGB. And I want to say In the Bunker also with the very estimable Katerina Shmatsina. Um, uh, and Katya, where
We
else can
are
people
on,
follow
you know,
you and
Twitter
support your
and Blue
work?
Sky, and also you can listen to the podcast on all major platforms like Spotify and Apple Podcasts. And thank you for advertising.
Yeah, but I
Yeah.
just
Oh my
gave you
God.
the
Okay.
opportunity to mention your Patreon and you didn't do it. So I'm going to do it for you. They have a Patreon page where you can support this project, which is, by the way, great. I've done it twice and survived both times. It is also features people like Minna Olander and other great Americans, of course, some of whom who are not American. So, go to their Patreon page, go subscribe to the YouTube page. It is ridiculous that Dogshirt TV has more YouTube followers than this project, given how the relative rate of frivolity among the two. And we're going to be back tomorrow. And, Katya, you have the link. You can join us anytime. Just click on that link. We are live every day. I mention this to most guests who show up, and the only one who ever has taken the opportunity randomly to show up is Jonathan Rausch, who does it regularly. But anytime you're up at this unladylike hour, feel free to drop in over morning coffee. Folks, we're going to be back tomorrow. I have no idea who the co hosts are going to be. Maybe it'll be Katie. I have no idea who the guest is going to be. Um, but I'll be there, and I suspect you'll be there. And Nastia, did we cheer you up at all?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, that's the most positive thing you will ever hear from a Slavic person. Yeah, sure. You cheered me up a little bit. Talk to you
Jesus
later.
Christ.